In the German language, we have something that's called trennbare Verben. You can translate that as separable verbs. What exactly does that mean? Separable verbs consist of a verb and a prefix. So some letters that you basically put in front of the verb. So for example, I have the verb fallen, which means to fall in English. And I'm adding the prefix up, so those two letters A, B, and together they form a new verb, a separable verb, abfallen, to fall off. Yeah? Or for example, kommen, that's my verb. Kommen means to come, and I'm adding the prefix an, and I have the result ankommen, yeah? Which means to basically arrive. Brechen as another verb, yeah, to break something, and I'm adding the prefix ab, and then I get abbrechen, which means to break off. There are two ways I can use my separable verb. I can either use it as one verb, so with prefix and verb together, or I can separate the prefix from the verb. If that's the case, then I would type my prefix at the end of the sentence. So for example, if I want to say she's turning on the light or she turns on the light, in German you would say sie macht das Licht an. Yeah, so here you see the verb machen is conjugated and separated from the prefix an, and I have my prefix at the end of the sentence. I can also keep the separable verb as one verb. For example, in cases when I use the auxiliary verb können in German, here conjugated as kannst. Können means can. So if I ask the question, can you turn on the light? In German, kannst du das Licht anmachen? I'm using an auxiliary verb, and in that case, I keep my separable verb together. And here, when using that question, it's at the end of the sentence. Here's another example sentence. I could say, the apple is falling on the floor. Der Apfel fällt auf den Boden. Here I'm just using a simple verb, not a separable verb. Fallen, conjugated to fällt. But in the next sentence, I'm actually using a separable verb. Die Kruste fällt ab. The scab is falling off. Fällt ab. Here again, I have my conjugated verb, fällt, and I have my prefix at the end of the sentence because that actually comes from the separable verb abfallen, to fall off. And because we like it so much, another example sentence. Der Mann fährt nach Berlin. The man is driving to Berlin. So here we have a simple verb, fährt, conjugated. Actually, the infinitive is fahren, but I can also use a separable verb in some cases. And here for the sentence, der Zug fährt 15 Uhr ab. So in English, you would probably say, the train leaves at 1500. So fährt ab, again, you can see that comes from the separable verb abfahren, and I use my conjugated verb first, der Zug fährt, and I have my prefix at the end of the sentence. So there are quite a few prefixes that verbs can have, but be careful because not every verb with a prefix is actually separable. You recognize usually that a verb is separable if there's an emphasis in the pronunciation on the prefix. So for example, if I have the prefix ab, I would say abfahren. So I have my emphasis on ab. Or I have a prefix saying auf, and then I would say aufmachen, yeah, to open, basically. There are also non-separable verbs, meaning there are verbs that do have a prefix, but you can't take off that prefix and leave it alone. basically. The prefix alone doesn't have a meaning. How do I recognize those? Usually there's no emphasis on the prefix. So for example, if I have the prefix ent, ent, and I would say entdecken, there's no emphasis on ent. Entdecken means to discover. Or for example, ge as a prefix, and I say gehören, and this means to belong.